I would make a motion that we come back from recess from our regular meeting. Second. Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Saber?
Yes.
Mrs. Harms?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a few ground rules before we get started. First off, I would like to thank Plain Local Schools for giving us this facility. I know this is a passionate issue, and I think it's best if we have a facility that we have an opportunity to at least hear. We don't have a lot of the echoing that we had originally in the fire station when it first was held. So this is really big for us to be able to have Plain Local Schools allow us to not only meet here, but also videotape it, because obviously then that becomes a public record, because everything that we do here is a public record. So, second thing, in the unlikely event that a fire alarm would go off, I would ask for all of you to take a look at where the exits are displayed. Please, in an orderly fashion, walk towards the exits. When you get outside that door, continue to move through those exits to the outside door. So this obviously is going to be similar to if you've attended the other previous meeting with our zoning commission. This meeting is going to go the same way. We're going to start out with a presentation by the developer. Then we will hear from the owner of the property. Is he here? He is not here, is he? Okay? So we'll hear from the developer. That'll be a short presentation. We're going to leave, walk either one side or the other, so we're going to watch this. And then we are going to ask that if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the resolution, we're going to do that. Then we'll ask for those that are against. Susie, how many people do we have to speak?
29.
Okay, so far we have 29 people to speak, okay? We're going to listen to everything you have to say. However, depending on how long you want to be here, if 3 people ahead of you, for example, said pretty much what you're going to say, and you wish to defer your comments, you can do that, okay? Because hearing the same thing from 2 people doesn't create any more reinforcement, okay? So if 10 people stand up and talk about traffic, for example, we've already recognized that there is a concern for traffic, okay? But if you feel you want to do that, that's fine with me as well. I'm not telling anybody that they shouldn't speak. I'm just saying 10 people talking about an issue isn't any more of a reinforcement than 1 person, okay? The second thing is, anybody that speaks will speak directly and only to the Board of Trustees. That's us 3, okay? We are the ones that are hearing all of this information. So there's no turning around back and forth. You are addressing us with your testimony, because that's what you're doing, okay? Also, I would highly appreciate that you keep all your comments relative and specific to the proposed zone change, okay? So we're going to listen, we're going to be respectful, but by the same token, we don't want this to get out of hand, okay? So I would truly appreciate that understanding. So based on that, right now then, Chuck, you want to give us a little bit, just maybe, do you have the information in front of you regarding that? So
yes.
Just give us a little bit about an understanding of the zoning amendment. We already know that, but I think it's appropriate we get it in the record that we've read it.
Okay. Thank you. Trustees, tonight we have a hearing for Amendment 592-25, which has been filed by K. Honian Homes and Koth Custom Builders for the rezoning of parcel 521-5455 Ivy Street Northwest, which is currently classified as R1 and is being applied to be changed to R6 Planned Unit Development District. Stark County Regional Planning has recommended approval of the proposed rezoning to R6 as stated in the letter provided, which is in your packets, on November 4th after their meeting. The Plain Township Board of Zoning Commission recommended approval to Amendment 592-25 with the following modifications. 1, only single-family dwellings will be developed on the property. 2, a maximum of 120 homes will be developed on the property. And 3, 1 and 2 will be to benefit the residents through deed restrictions. The property will be served by public water and public sewer, and a concept site plan is in your packets of the proposed allotment. All final plans would have to meet with the Stark County Regional Planning Subdivision regulations. Tonight we do have the Kahan developers. Mr. Koth has got a family problem. I don't know if he's going to make it or not, but right now he's not here. And then obviously we have members of the public to speak. So we'll start with
Yes,
Mr. Koth.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So do the representatives from Hovnanian want to come up to the mic? And you're going to show the presentation, right? Introduce yourselves for the record.
Hello, I'm Kristen Monroe, 3296 Columbia Road, Ridgefield, Ohio 44226. Let's see if I can get this working here. All right, so first of all, thank you very much for your time. Sorry, I don't know where I should be looking.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, you are talking to us.
No, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and get the site plan up here. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Travis Crane, who's going to discuss utility connections.
Good evening, thank you for your time. My name is Travis Crane. I'm with Davie Resource Group. I am the area manager of our civil engineering and surveying team. Address is 1310 Sharon Copley Road, Sharon Center, Ohio. This is a couple pages on the presentation. There are sheets that are taken from the 4-page submittal packet that we submitted to the zoning commission. I believe that the 3 trustees.
Yeah, we have it as well.
It was a really good detailed presentation by the zoning inspector in summary, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of that information. But basically, we have a 4-page submittal. Each one of those pages addresses specific information. The overall page 1 is showing the project in its totality, the number of lots, size of lots, parcel information, required zoning information. Page 2 is a summary of open space, which is unique to the R6 PUD district. There's also some detailed information on the bottom that shows information broken down per phase, some specific information on street lengths, and also some specific information on cul-de-sac dimensions. Page 3 and 4. So page 3 and 4 are blow-ups with some colored information on the location of where the proposed sanitary sewer is going to be connected to and brought to the project, and where the proposed water line will be connected and brought to the project, and also shows a conceptual layout of storm sewers and possible locations of stormwater management basins to handle the county, state, and federal regulations for stormwater management.
All right, so just a little bit about K. Hovnanian. We are the 16th largest home builder in the nation. And one of the best things about our company is that while we are publicly traded, we are still majority owned and operated through the Hovnanian family. So Era Hovnanian, our CEO, is second generation, and then his son Alexander actually works at the company as well. So we get both benefits of being publicly traded, but also still being a family company, which I think gives us definitely a competitive advantage. Also, something that sets us apart from our competitors, we do focus a little bit more on design in our homes. So we're really focused on value that we're bringing to our homeowners, and we want them to feel like they're walking into something that looks on like it's on HGTV, as opposed to just a white builder's grade home that you might see with some of our competitors. So we do what's called a looks collection, where you get entire design elements, and when you walk into your brand new home, you feel really good. So there's different options of what you can choose for each of those looks, but that's definitely something that sets us apart. This is just some of our exterior color palettes that we have. I'm not going to get into all of the details here, but this is really talking about high quality materials, high quality paint, stone. All of our exteriors will have at least 2 different design elements, so whether that's shake and stone or vinyl and brick, they have plenty of options to choose from. Again, just a couple of elevations. These are examples of homes that we build. All of the homes in this proposed community are fee simple, single family homes. There are no rental products in this community. We're hoping to have prices that start with a 3 in order to make it competitive in the marketplace. All of our homes will have 3 to 4 bedrooms, at least 2 bathrooms, and we'd like to offer 3-car options on the northern parcel that have the 65-foot lots. All right, so this concept layout is actually showing an R1 design. So based off of the current zoning of the property right now, this is an option that we could develop. This is showing 91 lots as opposed to the potential 120 that we're proposing with the R6. So not a substantial difference between the two. However, in this design, you have curb cuts that are going off of your main road. So you actually have 12 additional curb cuts on Elmhurst and 9 additional curb cuts on Ivy Street. Those are driveways that are going directly out onto those main streets. We would like to avoid that, and that's one of the main reasons that we are trying to propose this R6. There is also no open space requirement in the R1 zoning. So we have 36% open space on the proposed R6 PUD layout. There also, on the R6, is we are able to avoid the natural terrain of the property. So on the proposed site plan that you saw previously, we were able to do cul-de-sacs on the northern portion, which would stay out of the floodplain. Whereas here, we would actually have to make adjustments to that natural terrain. That would obviously impact drainage and most likely impact homeowners surrounding the property as well. That was one other reason that we would like to avoid going to this R1 layout. And then lastly is that with this R1 layout, there's no buffer to any neighboring properties. So as you can see, the properties that are surrounding this parcel, you have the new proposed homeowners, their property line will go directly adjacent to the existing homeowners. In the R6 layout, you have a 30-foot buffer. So you actually have open space surrounding the entire development, which provides for more green space, a little bit more protection to the existing homeowners here, and you will not have property lines that are directly adjacent to each other. So that was another big reason that we decided to move to that R6 layout. Let me go ahead and show the R6 layout one more time. So again, as you can see here, you have no curb cuts on the main road. You also have the surrounding buffer to the existing homeowners here. And, we really do feel like this is a benefit to the community. We really do feel like the R6 layout, this provides a much safer community feel as opposed to having driveways that are off of your main roads. Also with 36% having open space, certainly like that, that element in the design as well, as opposed to not having that requirement in the R1. So that is our presentation, unless you guys have any other questions. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
you. Do we have anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the resolution? Anyone else? Okay, now we're going to come to the portion of those people that want to speak against. So Chuck Schellenberger will read your name off, you'll come to the mic, give your remarks and your testimony, and we'll just go ahead and get started.
Okay, I'm just going to go in order as you signed in. I have Paul at 7760 Northland Avenue, North Canton.
You want not taking a note?
I'm sorry?
Are we not doing a note like we did last time? They asked us to take a note.
No, we're not doing that. We don't do that typically in this hearing.
Zoning Commission does it.
Yeah.
Well, as Chuck said, I'm Paul Badgett. I, along with my wife, have been a resident of Plain Township for 34 years, where in those 34 years, my wife and I raised 2 children, who also both planted their adult roots in Plain Township. Both of our children purchased their first homes just a couple miles from Mom and Dad. John, you had said that you watched the video from the last meeting several times, so I'm assuming you knew that, but I think it bears repeating. We live just off of Ivy. This is in fact our neighborhood. Unlike Scott, unlike John, as a matter of fact, even unlike the applicant, Greg Koff, who does not reside on the property despite me having a notarized affidavit stating that he does. I'd like to enter that into the records. I've got a call into Abigail Timberland, who notarized this, as it says here, deposes and says that she or he resides on Ivy Street. He doesn't. You copy that? It's no secret here, we oppose this adamantly. Each speaker that you're going to hear tonight here represents not just themselves, but the potential for the entire street that they live on. I brought up safety concerns at the last Glen Oak meeting. I brought up safety concerns surrounding R6 and high-density housing. I brought up concerns of health impacts of high density, such as crowding, limited sources. High density attributes to a greater likelihood of conflict, as we've seen conflict in the apartment buildings over off Apple Grove when there were shootings. I mean, you get a large group of people together, it's greater likelihood for conflict. Increased waste, increased emissions, noise, nighttime activity, a greater likelihood of a catastrophic loss. If one building catches fire, it's a greater likelihood it's going to jump to another one. Unlike the homes that are there now, that are half acre. I had also cited that back in 2020, the COVID pandemic taught us that healthier living comes from modest social distancing, just like the homes you guys live in. It works. Furthermore, with regards to safety, I attended the township meeting on the 27th. I had just listened to you, John, and other board members discuss the difficulties and the challenges brought to Plain from this last winter storm. You shared comments about the challenges the plows had keeping the roads clear and safe. We knew that traffic was going to be a point of contention with this. Yeah, you're right. John, you had alluded to, even at that meeting, making a comment, wow, there's been so much style, if we have another wave like this, where we're going to push it all? That's a good question. I don't know what you do with all of that. Pretty tight knit. No developer that has anything to do that would have to contend with it. Neither would you guys or Greg Koff, the applicant. The zoning notification signs that were placed on Ivy Street, they were a little bit obscure. I've heard a couple people say something about that. They were parallel with the street. Most people are watching for deer coming out of those cornfields. The only reason that I seen those signs is I happened to pass through there the day that the road department was installing them. I felt that the signs were an invitation to the residents should they have any comments, questions, or concerns. Well, here we are. The residents, the voters, and the lifers of Plain Township cautioning you. At first, I was kind of excited at the notion that my input of 34 years of resident in proximity to this property may be beneficial to the zoning committee and the board of trustees. But something changed on the night of the 27th. One comment from your law director, Eric Williams, that put me in a defensive posture since. I was having a conversation with John. Eric interrupted and made some comment about, be sure to tell your people. You know, if I said that in any other context, it'd be construed as offensive. My point of that is, it has all the makings of steering and an attempt to dictate the framework of our discussion. His comment, I thought, carried overtones of partisanship, an us versus them kind of a mentality. That's when my confidence was shaken. I thought it was supposed to be all of us, not your people. You're part of that. It makes me ponder what motivates a member of the board of trustees. Is it an act of service in office? Is that the desire to advocate for the health and welfare and civility of our community? Or is it a board of trustees motivated by money and monopoly? Why is this important? The trustees are going to make a decision tonight that will forever change the fabric of Plain Township and to permanently impact the residents of the surrounding community. Trustees' terms are short. Profits in bank accounts can be spent, exhausted, and depleted. But you know what's not short-term? The negative impacts of an R6 development imposed on a community for financial gain. Our residencies here do not expire. Something else that doesn't expire are reputations. Asking you to do what's right. John, you said that the trustees were going to vote one of three ways. It's my opinion, two of those are going to be wrong. I'd ask you to consider keeping this R1 for the benefit of all of us. Please and thank you.
Thank you. I don't mind the applause after somebody speaks, but while they're speaking, please, those are comments that we're paying attention to, so it's not a popularity thing. So if you want to clap after that person's done speaking, please do so, but don't interrupt. And in a way, that's not fair to them, because I don't want them to lose their train of thought either. Okay, who's next, Chuck?
I got Pete at 7347 Elmhurst Ave.
Good evening. First of all, my name is Pete Jarokowitz, and my wife Joanne and I reside at 7347 Elmhurst Avenue, directly across from the southwestern corner of that allotment. I'm retired from the Timken Steel Company, where I served as chief engineer for the industrial products group for the company. We are your constituents, and we put our trust in you to make the best decisions to ensure that any development improves the quality of life, helps maximize property values, prevents land use conflicts, and allows growth to occur in a rational manner compatible with the existing surrounding communities. That does not. If you just look at the site map of the 120 homes and try to rationalize that it is comparable with and emulates the existing community, I've got my own map, where if you look at these homes, and you can see the one up there, which is a direct reflection of that, except there's some changes, and you look at the lots around here, they don't even come close. They don't even come close. Second of all, I want to, in terms of that particular diagram, if you look at all the open space there, look at the access to it. If you look at the southwest and southeast corner, how do you get to that open space? By walking through residents' backyards. There is no path to those areas. Is that a true open space? Also, R6 says the open space is there to be used for recreational purposes, enjoyment of the area, etc. What kind of recreation are you going to do there? You've got shrubs, you're going to hit balls into people's yards. It doesn't make any sense. Also, those size lots, if you go through the fountains at Edgewood and look at those lots, the backyards are maybe from here to the table and about as wide as a table, maybe a table and a half. Think about that. If you have a family home, 2 children, you want to have a picnic in your yard, you're right next to your neighbor. They'll be closer to you than I am. There is no privacy. Okay? So, if you look at this plan, it is aesthetically in conflict with the surrounding area. No question about it. It will look like a military-based housing complex in the middle of a residential community due to the close packed density. If you look up at the north and south sides, those homes are actually in a density of 3.7 per acre. That's far from the plan which is, oh, we got 59 acres and we got 120 homes, so we're only 2.04 density. If you look at the actual physical nature and positioning of the houses, all the vertical lines are about 3.7 per acre. The other thing is, and the residents have not received any firm answer, in terms of the sewer lines and the need for residents to tie into them. We don't know I live literally just across the street on Elmhurst in the southwestern corner. Am I going to have to tie into the sewer? I don't have an answer. And how much is that going to cost? I heard it's 120 per linear foot in my yard. So who pays the $20,000? Why should I have to pay it since I didn't create the situation? It's not because my septic tank's failing. If I'm going to be forced, the developer should be paying it, not me. They should be paying it for everybody that's forced to tie into that situation. $20,000. That is not peanuts. And a lot of people here can't afford that. A lot of people are retired. They're on fixed income. Again, this is going to dramatically negatively impact their lives. The only reason for R6 is a financial one. to allow the cramming of as many homes as possible in the parcel to maximize revenue for the developer and property owner. It has nothing to do with improving the quality of life for the existing residents and even the new residents who will be living in that property due to the small lot sizes. Like I said, no privacy. And think about this. 2-car garages, small driveways. What happens when the kids get a little older, they get cars? Oops, now you got a car always sitting in the driveway or parked on the street. And if you have company, say you're gonna have 3 couples over or 4 couples for dinner, where do they park? In the street. And if you look at the width of those streets, if it is truly the same as the fountains at Edgewood, you're not going to be able to pass through there very easily at all. And if there's a fire, as Paul said, where are the emergency vehicles going to be able to get through? You will definitely have cars parking on the street with that arrangement. And R1 development does have advantages over the R6. If you look at this R6, all the trees, shrubs, etc., that they have put in to beautify the area, who is going to take care of that? It's going to be the homeowners association. And I live across the street. I have about 0.46 acres. Okay? I have my lawn mowed professionally, trimmed, etc. It costs me $3,500 a year for that approximately, let's see, if I got a half of 4.46, it's probably about a quarter, not even a quarter of an acre of grass. Let's say it is a quarter of an acre. You take all the acreage of the trees and everything, what's that going to cost? Because you're going to have to maintain that, and the homeowners association is going to have to do that. And if you figure out all that money, it's going to cost hundreds, probably $100,000 to $200,000 a year in maintenance, because, and I've talked to landscapers, and they said that is going to be a nightmare to go in and mow that 30-foot lot with the trees every few feet, shrubs, etc., and then taking away the waste, etc. Are they going to tell the homeowners association, oh, you're going to have to pay the $100,000, $200,000 in your homeowners association fee? So in terms of an R1 development, 100% of the property is maintained by the residents. They, just like the neighborhoods surrounding it. We mow our own yards, whether I do it professionally, have a professional do it, or I do it myself. They take care of them. They're beautiful. They're easy to maintain. This is a nightmare. In fact, if the current R1 zone property was developed by actually selling parcels such as half acre or greater sizes with individual custom home-built homes, it would be a natural outgrowth of the surrounding community, promoting quality living conditions and maximizing property values. It benefits the whole township. This would also reduce the cost for increase of services needed in the township due to the lower number of individual homes that need to be served, not the 120. I'd like to point out, if you take, which this map doesn't show, if you take the existing homes on Chelmsford, which is the property directly bordering the southern portion of this allotment, and overlay them in that southern portion of this total parcel, you're going to get in the neighborhood of around 40 to 50 home sites. With what I did was take roadways going essentially from the west to the east and the houses lining that, so you don't have driveways coming out on Elmhurst. That's ridiculous. No planner of a development would put that there. The only reason this developer did is to say, oh, see how bad R1, we got all these driveways going out to Elmhurst. That is not necessary at all. At the zoning commissioning meeting, the developer presented a glorified portrayal, and they did so here, in my opinion, of their reputation. The facts are, and you can research this information yourself from sources on the internet as I do. Based on recent reports, Hovnanian Homes has faced several legal, regulatory, and consumer-related issues in Ohio and nationwide over the years, ranging from construction quality complaints to environmental violations, EPA issues, and development disputes with counties in different areas. As of December 2025, complaints have been registered at the Better Business Bureau in Canton, Medina, North Jackson, and Jeromesville regarding construction quality, drainage issues, standing water, and failed promises regarding sod installation. Warranty concerns have also been reported in Ohio for difficulties getting warranty repairs, with some stating that they were told by the builder to contact their homeowners association insurance instead of having the builder cover defects like roof leaks. They are generally recognized, as they said, as large-scale, accessible production builder with a wide disparity in customer experiences, ranging from high satisfaction to significant complaints about build quality and post-closing services. K. Hovnanian is a prominent national builder, building suitable for buyers, prioritizing modern designs and location, but they are often flagged for requiring diligent, independent, third-party inspections during the construction phase, not after, to ensure quality. Because a lot of the issues are in the construction, they don't show themselves until the people are in the houses, and then all of a sudden, oh wow, if this had been caught during construction phases, this error wouldn't have been made, that error wouldn't have been made. There's a story of a person who, the garage door didn't work. They blamed it on the owner because he did something. It was in the construction. You can contrast this type of a builder with people such as the Rembrandt Home Incorporated in North Canton, Ohio. They maintain a strong reputation, award-winning custom home builder and renovator. They are primarily recognized for their high-quality craftsmanship and a personalized, hands-on approach to custom design. They hold an A+ rating in the Better Business Bureau. Customer feedback, they have a 96% positive recommendation rate on Facebook. On the website for Houzz, H-O-U-Z-Z, they were awarded a 5-star average rating, citing that they are a quality builder. I don't mean to have to say those things about Hovnanian, but I think it's important to realize who is making this, what their track record is, what are the people that are going to be in this development looking at and facing in the future, and what lifestyle are we going to be facing in the future. We had this whole auditorium filled during the zoning commission meeting. Filled. We had your fire station filled in the original zoning commission meeting that had to be tabled because the paperwork and they didn't have all their ducks in a row, kind of representative of what I was just saying. And that was 162 people all against. And I would venture, as you stated yourself, John, that these people, when you ask for somebody to come forward, nobody came forward. We look at you as being representatives of us, not the builder, not the owner. They're not residents of Plain Township. We are the residents. We know this is going to be redeveloped, and we look forward to it. But we look forward to it in a lifestyle that is compatible with the current lifestyle in the surrounding area and not detrimental to it. So I urge you, and I know it's going to take a unanimous vote to overturn the recommendations of the zoning commission. But that is the right thing to do for the residents of the surrounding community. And we have been there. My wife has been here 48 years. I've been here 35 years. We love Plain Township environment. You put this in the way that's designed, it's gonna be such a, like I said, an eyesore. If you imagine in your own mind driving north on Elmhurst, oh, I'm gonna go buy a home. Let's see where this site is. Oh, holy smokes! Look at this. This doesn't look anything like the rest of the community, and this is what I wanted. It's not what we need and not what we want. And it's just going to hurt us. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll really consider my thoughts and comments.
Thank you. So, before we get to the next speaker, there is a slight clarification that our law director is going to talk about based on your comment, up to the point that you were accurate about the voting, but he's going to talk about that now. Thank you.
The law actually changed, and this will not require you.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, I can go.
Thank you. The law actually changed. It will not require a unanimous vote. It'll be a simple majority, just so you all know as we go forward.
Well, I hope we get a simple majority.
I have Joanne from the same address.
Hello, my name is Joanne Trompwitz, and 7347 Elmhurst Avenue Northwest has been my home for 48 years. I love the area for its openness and country lifestyle. I get emotional. I enjoy the Stark Parks and the wildlife that surrounds us. I always knew the day would come when the land across the street from me would be developed into another neighborhood. I thought that neighborhood would fit into our already established country atmosphere and not detract from it. That would be R1. These high-density cluster homes don't fit into the already existing community. I want to see the new development into our country-like atmosphere, more openness between houses, making it a desirable place to live. I have paid my taxes these last 48 years, voted yes to any levy plain put on the ballot, for example, fire, schools, sheriff, roads, etc., because I wanted to do what's right for the benefit of Plain Township. I love Plain Township. Now we're asking you, our elected trustees, to stand behind us, the citizens of Plain, to keep the beauty already established and vote no to R6. Thank you.
Thank you. So if somebody comes up to speak and I want you to tip it down, just tip it down. Thank you. Next.
Glenn Mooney, 1400 Elm Creek Circle Road.
All right. I'm on the north side of this project, and I don't think I would be here tonight if you guys were just going to do an R1. R6 is just ridiculous. You think about Elm Creek Circle up there, you just pick it up and you put it in those fields. I don't think anybody would have a problem with it. We all have basements. I don't think these homes have basements. You got emergency issues then when you get a tornado or storms come through. You got a lot of people, no place to go. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if it's Daleen, is that how you pronounce that? 7416 Byron Northeast.
That's me and my car.
Okay. And then I have another person from the same address. So pass also?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I go down the list here. I have George from 7495 Ivy.
Trustees. So yeah, I'm George Ferretis, live at 7495 Ivydale. Graduated from Glen Oak, 99. I've been in this community my whole life. raising 3 children in Plain Township. Love this area, love my neighbors. It's a great area. Now this proposed development borders my property. I would see parcels 20, 21, and 19 from my backyard. I'm on IBS, just to the right on this plan. So I've been in my home for years. It's been 13 years, renovated the home, love what it's turned into. I oppose this rezoning. I'm not interested in any development of this property, to be frank. And I know that's not my call, and I know it's not realistic, and it's not going to happen. But when I look into my backyard, it faces west, the sun sets over this property, it's beautiful. I know that's not going to stay, would prefer for it to stay that way. I'm not even interested in R1. Now, you know, Plain Township, it's a township. I ask what the trustees' goals are for the township, because if we continue with a high level of development of the township, it will then no longer be what it is. I moved into a beautiful rural residential township. Continuing development of this area is going to turn it into something else that I'm not interested in. A lot of these people, not interested in it. I'm not sure, I mean, a lot of you are, you know, right up the road from me. I'm not sure how interested you would be in our township no longer being what it is. So I ask, I really actually want them to answer this question, and maybe I should be paying more attention as to what the future development plans are of the trustees and of the township. So when I end, I'd like you to speak to it, even just if briefly. Where do you see the development of this area going to? It's not what my wife and I signed up for. I prefer to keep the rural residential character of the area, although I know that's a zoning term. I just mean, you know what I mean. Also, someone else I'm sure will speak to this. I'm sure it will impact the wildlife in the area. I look into beyond my backyard into this property, and I see wildlife consistent. I know they're feeding off of the corn. I know something's going to happen to this wildlife. Has a study been done? Will there be any type of a impact assessment done? Are we interested in that? I mean, we know there's going to be drainage issues. So I'm on well and septic. I'm not interested in getting on city water and sewer. Maybe forced to. Don't know. Nobody can give me an answer. I don't know what that would cost. Nobody can give me an answer. Also, Canton City Council is moving to require annexation for water service, if I understand what I just read a couple of days ago correctly. If the trustees could please speak to this when I'm done speaking. Has this passed? Do you have any info? Because I understand that if this passes, then, or it might have already passed, it's an emergency ordinance. I'm not a lawyer. But property owners could be required to annex into the city of Canton as a condition of getting new transferred water service. How does that impact us and all of us? So I ask for the trustees to deny R6 rezoning, keep the character and consistency and low population density of our township. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Scott White, 1104 Ivy.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you.
Keith Bradley, 1481 Ivy.
I'm good too.
Thank you.
Lynn Hill, 1265 Danbury.
Hi, I'm Lynn Hill, live at 1265 Danbury Road Northwest. I'm on the Pembroke Board. I'm the treasurer for the Pembroke Homeowners Association. I grew up in Plain Township. I've been there 60 plus years. I know I don't look that old, but go with me on this. This is a true fact. I've been to the Stark County Planning Commission meeting for this Ivy Reserve. I've been to the 2 zoning board meetings for this Ivy Reserve. I've been last week to your Board of Trustees meeting to understand how it works, and here I am today. So very interested to speak for 100 plus, 200 plus people, 100 living in Pembroke Homeowners Association. Again, as people mentioned, we're trying to force R6 into this property. I know you've heard that. But it just doesn't make sense. The properties, the smaller properties on the southern are 7,500 square feet. We in Plain Township, surrounding areas, we're 25 to 35,000 square feet on average. We have people here that live on 1 acre and 2 acre homes. Okay, now you're talking 45,000 square feet and 90,000 square feet. And you're trying to put 7,500 square feet homes in the center of all this allotment that's 2 to 3 times, almost 4 times more larger. It doesn't make sense. And the 59 acres that we talk about on this property called Ivy Reserve, going to R6, we know that 30% of it has to be open space and recreational facilities. Someone touched on that already. So 30% of that, your 59 acres, it goes down to 41. And then 41 acres, as you look on that map up there, you see the big dark green spot in the northern portion. That's all swamp. That's a swamp area. And for anybody out here, and they can raise their hand if they want, that live on Elm Creek, they already have flooding issues before any of this development even comes into place. But we haven't considered that flooding area and what's going to happen when all these homes get built up there. In addition to that, you have 2 oil well reserves that no one's really even talked about. There's one in the northern portion and there's one in the southern portion. And I'm guessing that those are boxed off in some manner because you obviously can't develop on them. But somebody's going to see that in their backyard. Maybe one of these 7,500 foot homes just got a little smaller because he's going to see an oil well pump in his backyard. So how many acres up there are really developable is my question. And as some people alluded, the impact to the current residents. We've talked about the water lines, the sewer lines. I've talked about worsening of the flood zone area that's already there. Maybe contaminating some of the surrounding wells that some of us have. And then the road widening on Elmhurst. Is it going to happen? Are you going to widen roads on Elmhurst or on Ivy? We all know today Ivy's a very narrow street. Barely 2 cars can get down there. Elmhurst is a little bigger. But I also know on the Fountains, when they put all those homes in there, they're all coming out on a 5-lane road. 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south, and a turning lane in the middle. But we don't have that over here. So what happens to those roads? Once you put 120 more homes in there, are you going to have to widen the homes? What happens to the right-of-way for the people who live on Elmhurst and Ivy? What happens to their property if those roads get widened? And I'd ask, can you make an amendment to R1 with smaller lot sizes? I know R1 says 15,000 square feet. An amendment was made before with the R6. So can you make an amendment with R1? Maybe it's not 15, maybe they're 12, but not 7,500 square feet. The zoning board also made an amendment at the last meeting with Koth and Hovanian. And I ask you this, I'm not sure who signed that amendment. Because in my mind, the owner is Koth. That's who owns that property today. I have no guarantee, none of us do, if Hovanian's really even going to build on that property. We hear them, we see it. But I don't know how much right they have right now. What if they decide 6 months from now or a year from now, they don't want to build on that property? They looked into what the cost is going to be for the sewer and the water and the roads and everything, and they say, you know what, we're out. And this property becomes R6 now. And it could be apartments and duplexes and all those other things that we don't want it to be. We have no guarantee, and Koth is the real owner of this property, so that's who we should be talking to. That's who should be conforming to the amendment, no matter who the builder is. And I'll just finish by saying, Hovnanian isn't local. And Koth mentioned about moving, selling this property, wants to move closer to his father in Florida. I get that. I retired after 41 years so I could be closer to my mom and had 4 months with her. That was it. I understand that. But when all this is said and done, it's the 200 of us that are still going to be living there. The 200 of us in that surrounding community that live on that half an acre, acre, or 2 acres that are going to be living surrounding that property. So you were elected to represent us. So do what the Plain Townships want and keep the Ivy Reserve R1. Thank you.
Carrie White, 1104 Ivy Street.
I'm good.
Kim Bradley, 1481 Ivy Street.
Okay.
Lori Shirley, 1346 Stonington Road.
Let me just adjust this, please. Good evening, members of the Township Trustees and your department heads. My name is Lori Shirley, and I live at 1340 Stonington Road, Northwest North Canton.
Mrs. Shirley, can you speak up, please, just a little bit?
Sure. I also have...
That's better, thank you.
I have a little bit of a sore throat issue, so I apologize for that. I'm currently the president of the Pembroke Homeowners Association, and so I'm here this evening on behalf of the Board of Trustees and all of the homeowners there. And earlier this evening, before the hearing began, I gave Mr. Schallenberger a position letter from our Board of Trustees, and so he's distributed that. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And we'd like to have that be entered into the record.
thank you. Yes,
Thank
we
you.
do have that.
All right, great.
And actually, I've read it.
And also had a copy for Ms. Monroe from Hovnanian Homes. I want to give you a little bit of a history about Pembroke, and I should say that I'm a retired public sector planner for 34 years, and the lion's share of my career was had when my family and I were living in the state of Maryland, but I did retire from the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Montgomery County Planning Department. So this isn't my first public hearing. Pembroke has a total of 112 homes and 4 undeveloped lots, and it was created in the late 1960s, early 70s. It was developed, and at that time, the R1 zone had a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, and since then, the R1 zone has been revised to lower the minimum lot size to 15,000 square feet. But as Lynn Hill said, our treasurer, most of the lots in Pembroke have at least 20,000 square feet because we're on well and septic, and so in order to have those private facilities, you had to have a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. When the subdivision was created, what it did from a land use planning perspective is it created a residential character that's inherent to the area, and the surrounding neighborhood lots and neighborhoods have developed around it in a similar R1 or RR or larger lot size pattern. If you go down on Elmhurst and you're traveling north towards Mount Pleasant Road, to the left, you will find there are large lots. Some are 10 acres, some are 5 or larger, and they have very large, expensive homes on those. We are very concerned about 8 of the lots in Pembroke back up to the Ivy Reserve site. And so we're concerned about the adverse impact to these neighbors' property values when you consider that they'd be backed up against smaller lots that have a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet. We're very concerned again about the impact, and one of the considerations that is supposed to be had during the zoning review of a site like this in relation to the township zoning resolution. And I'm talking specifically about the purposes of the R6 zone, and I believe that's in section 7.08.1. The burden of proof is on the applicant to demonstrate that they have made a compelling case as to why the township trustees should approve the R6 zone on this site. And at this point, or up to this point, after the zoning board hearing, I can see I've heard no compelling arguments as to why the zoning should be changed from R1 to R6. And I'm especially concerned, and I brought this up at the zoning board hearing, and I didn't get any answers from either Ms. Monroe, or I didn't get any questions from the zoning board about the sixth of the purposes of the R6 zone, and that's letter F. And what I'd like to do is read that to you. It requires their concept plan is supposed to demonstrate an overall increase of density in conformance with a development plan that is compatible with surrounding land uses, transportation, and community facilities. So really, the community facilities topic in relation to this, that doesn't really apply, because they're not proposing any community facilities. If you compare this site to the Fountains of Edgewood, which is a true R6 development that will have a community pool, a community clubhouse, a recreation facility, and I believe they're even constructing a 3 or 4 story unit assisted senior living housing there, in addition to the smaller lot sizes of 7,500 within most of the Fountains at Edgewood. But there also is a segment of the Fountains where a different builder is providing a transitional area in terms of lot sizes, so you don't have 7,500 square foot lots backing up immediately to an older subdivision in relation to the Fountains. I believe it's called Stonehenge, and those appear to be 1 acre lot size lots with older homes. And fortunately for those residents in that older neighborhood, a different builder other than Ryan Homes purchased a parcel within that, and they are developing it with a double-loaded cul-de-sac and houses that are on lots that are, I believe, 15,000 square feet or larger. So there is a transition there. There's no such transition proposed here in this development. I have a real concern also as to how the applicant has not demonstrated that this plan will be compatible with the surrounding land uses and lot sizes and density. And so I would ask that after I'm done speaking and Ms. Monroe has an opportunity to provide rebuttal comments, that she would please come to the microphone and show us how have they provided compatibility in relation to the surrounding land uses. They can't make that argument, and they don't even want to try. In fact, the person who prepared the R1 subdivision layout was probably a planner or a landscape architect, but I note that they're not here to present that plan to you, and I'm disappointed in that. So what did they do? Hovnanian made the decision to send Ms. Monroe, who is a land acquisition manager, to present that plan to you. And I also want to just clarify that, as I said at the zoning board hearing, when Ms. Monroe presented the R1 option, showing all the driveway curb cuts onto Elmhurst and Ivy, I believe I said at that hearing, I clarified that, an applicant can submit a plan like that. They can have 50 curb cuts on a plan if they want to, but that doesn't mean it's going to be approved that way. And I would note that, and I'm sure you know this, that in your zoning resolution, your roads department, I don't know if it's the supervisor or whoever, is required to do a review of a subdivision plan with the purpose being to minimize, if not reduce, as many of those curb cuts as possible for motorist and pedestrian safety considerations. I would note that on the application, the applicant was asked to respond to what's the approximate cost going to be to them to develop this site, and they plugged in the number $11.5 million. And at the zoning board hearing, there was some discussion about impacts to the existing residents in the area who don't have public water and sewer, have well and septic, and would we be forced to making that conversion? And who would pay that cost? The cost from where the line is in the street, those water and sewer lines in relation to your house. The individual property owner has to pay that cost. That's my understanding of how it works. Unless, Mr. Koth and maybe Hovnanian have budgeted within that $11.5 million to cover the cost to those individual property owners to have to make that conversion. There's been no answers about that and no explanation. After the January 14th zoning board hearing, as the president of the Pembroke Homeowners Association, I was very disturbed about the number of unanswered questions and the lack of questions being asked of the residents who spoke in opposition. There were no questions from the board members, and it just seemed like they, kind of put their head down and just, didn't want to hear what we had to say and didn't ask us any specific questions. But that having been said, when I got home, I realized that, there may be some additional hidden costs in addition to the water and sewer if we have to make that conversion. But if you approve this plan tonight, it's my understanding that the development review process now goes on to the subdivision phase, and the applicant creates their subdivision plan to eventually go to record plat. And the Stark County Regional Planning Commission Transportation Planning Section has to do their review as to the transportation impacts that would be found in a traffic study or traffic impact statement. So we won't know what those impacts are. And my point is, on Elmhurst Avenue, if you're familiar with that, and I know Ms. Harless is because she lives in our neighborhood, we have 3 entrance streets off of Elmhurst. There's 6 lots on the 3 streets, corner lots, and we have neighborhood monumental entrance signs that we, in the last 5 years, we spent X amount of dollars. It's about $35,000 bringing there. And the concern is that if Elmhurst has to be widened and the right-of-way has to be expanded, there's not much room to begin with, but the new right-of-way line would probably impact all 6 of those signs. And then the question becomes, who has to relocate those signs out of the right-of-way? You can't leave them in the right-of-way. That's a fixed obstruction, and it doesn't work. So I'm in a situation now where I'm going to have to go and meet with my board if you approve this development tonight. And we may have to have an emergency meeting of our homeowners association and discuss with them that here's some hidden costs that we might be faced to pay for. And I just want to remind the board that Pembroke is a nonprofit homeowners association. We are registered through the State of Ohio Secretary of State. We have all of our paperwork in place. And I believe it's every 5 years we have to submit our business records to make sure that we are spending the revenue that we bring in appropriately. And so we had, after our annual meeting in October last year, which Ms. Harless attended along with several of the township department heads, and we really appreciate that. We have a really good open dialogue at those meetings and good discussion. But the concern is that our board, we decided after our annual meeting in mid-October that we did our budget planning meeting because we have to do some small-scale projects to continuously maintain various features in our subdivision. That's according to our covenants and restrictions that were created when the subdivision was created. So for example, we have to maintain our streetlights. We have 52. They're old. They've been there since the subdivision has been in existence. And they're past their lifespan. So our board made the collective decision at the planning meeting that we were going to replace those. And so now we're budgeting and we're trying to reserve our funds. So we will have the ability to order 52 new streetlight fixtures at one time, as opposed to trying to piecemeal it. We had one vendor that Lynn Hill, our treasurer, contacted, and they only had 30 available. They couldn't guarantee that they could get the other 22, if we needed them. So we couldn't go that route. But now, I'm faced with having to go to the other board members and also to the homeowners association and tell them, look, we might have to bear the cost of relocating those 6 signs that we just paid for, but we don't have an answer to the question. And so it's difficult for our board members to make important budgetary decisions on how to wisely use our funds that we receive from our homeowners in their association dues on an annual basis. So I really wish that somebody could give us some answers, some definitive answers. So the board members, we can go back to our homeowners and say, here's what we think is going to happen, here's what it might cost us, and we might have to put on hold our plans to replace those street light fixtures that we have. We also maintain open space areas, and we maintain an asphalt curb system that we have. And that's sometime after this whole hearing on this item dies down, and I am going to come back to the trustees at one of your meetings, and I would like to start the dialogue about necessary repairs to the asphalt curb system that are periodically, yes, damaged by the Plain Township snowplow trucks. And, we understand that. Our concern is that your snowplow truck drivers are safe. I can't imagine hitting a curb like that. But we want to work with you so we can pay the cost of repairing and replacing incrementally that system that's been there for approximately 56 years. Let's see. I want to just stress to you again that, as the president of the association and our board members, we're in a difficult situation right now. We have very limited funds, and I would just urge you and respectfully request that the township trustees disapprove this zoning application because of the hidden unknown costs and who is going to be responsible for paying that. And so what I'm saying is, it's difficult enough for you to make the decision tonight when you don't have all the answers to the questions. It just doesn't work that way. Again, I'm at a loss as to what our association is going to do to possibly bear the price for all of those costs. And it was really, it wasn't intended for this to ever be here and for us to be standing here in opposition to this. As some of the other speakers have said, we're fine with R1. And a few of my neighbors have said, Lori, wouldn't it be great if if a builder came along and took that Ivy Reserve site and just made it an extension of Pembroke on 15,000 square foot lots? Because the R1 zone, since Mr. Koff purchased the property, the R1 zone was revised to lower the minimum lot size from 20,000 square feet to 15,000 square feet. So I would even suggest to you that when that happened, and he was owning the property, he realized the financial gain on paper. And now, he turns around and he's trying to sell it for more density in our neighborhood. We're opposed to this, and we ask you to consider all of our concerns, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy at 1265 Chelmsford. Good. The next person asked to be last, so I'll ask her for now. Barry Kindy Kinley, 1294 Chelmsford. Good. All right. Looks like Robert at 1638 Wintercrest. I can't quite make out the last name, so I'm sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Bob Parks. Lived in 1638 Windcrest Street, Northwest. Lived there for way over 40 years. And this right here, I'm going to put it in simple terms. You're putting 10 pounds in a 2-pound bag. I know that's probably a little gross, but that's exactly what it is. And you gentlemen as trustees, you better look the definition up as trustee. You were supposed to protect our assets. This is not doing that. You are going, I don't know what's going on, or what, is there something going on under the table? I don't know. But that, you can't do that. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Who's next?
Rosanna Harding, 1428 Danbury.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. I've been a resident of Plain Township most of my life. I only moved away about 10 years ago when my husband and I got married, and for a short while we moved to Elyria and then Medina. And when we were looking to invest in a home, we wanted to come back, I wanted to come back to Plain Township. And I speak on behalf of my husband as well. He became infatuated with the area as well. And it was not because of small, crowded developments, but it was because we were able to find a neighborhood that was peaceful, with warm and welcoming neighbors, and that fueled our decision. I'm here to express my concerns about the proposed zoning change. And I understand that communities evolve and that this property that is being considered to this evening is already zoned as an R1. And I'm not opposed to growth, but I am not opposed to it when it is well planned and appropriately decided upon. Moving to from an R1 to an R6 creates some significant changes that I think needs to be carefully considered before a decision is made. Many of the things that I was going to talk about included things about traffic, which many of the previous speakers had already talked about. But I can tell you from my personal standpoint, when we lived in our bought our house 6.5 years ago, we picked our house because it was quiet. We could go on walks in the neighborhood. My husband and I enjoyed riding our bikes, and I enjoy jogging. As traffic increases, that safety and that enjoyment that I have is being taken away. That right that I purchased that home for, that we purchased that home for, that right is being taken away from me. And I have never been passionate about something like this until this zoning change has been taken forward. In addition to the traffic concerns alone, I am concerned about having to expand the roads. Again, without the expansion of roads, I can't foresee how a development like this could be implemented. And then without widening the roads, it's only going to lead to congestion and traffic and frustrations. And then second, the impacts to our schools and public services. While it's only one development, I imagine that there's going to be a trickle-down effect, that at some point we're going to have a levy that is going to have to be increased because there's increased participants or increased residents in this area, more than what was originally planned. And then finally, I'd like to raise a serious procedural concern. As I understand, the sale of this parcel has not yet been completed and is contingent. It seems to be contingent on the outcome of this zoning decision. In essence, it seems our township is being asked to grant a permanent zoning change before a specific binding plan has been implemented. And more importantly, zoning changes run with the land, not with the buyer. Once the R6 zoning is granted, the current prospective purchaser could sell the property immediately, or they could decide to split it and apply to split the parcel, and all of the changes that have been proposed here today are null and void. If a prospective buyer is truly committed to this community, as they say they are, they should be willing to propose a viable plan that works within the existing R1 zoning, a plan that is profitable for the seller while still respecting the character and capacity of the surrounding neighborhood. Responsible development should not require a major zoning change simply to make a transaction work. Zoning changes shape our future, and once made, they are extremely difficult to undo, as I'm sure you all see today by the amount of meetings we have had to have about this zoning change. Many residents choose to live here based on the expectations created by the R1 zoning, and those expectations deserve respect. I respectfully ask the committee and the board of trustees to proceed cautiously to consider whether the existing R1 zoning already allows for reasonable development and to prioritize the long-term safety, stability, and health of our community. Thank you for your time.
I have a Mark Shirley, same address as previous speaker.
What number was on, Joe?
10.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to speak. Again, my name is Mark Shirley. I live at 1340 Stonington Road in Pembroke. My wife and I live in the Pembroke subdivision, which borders the proposed R6 Ivy Reserve housing development by Cahill Bunyan Homes. We were both raised in Plain Township, graduated from Glenwood High School, and chose to retire here. We are against the proposed R6 Ivy Reserve's housing development project and want to keep the current R1 zoning in place to preserve the character of our neighborhood as well as the surrounding area. Earlier, Kristen portrayed Cahovanian as a quality builder. I respectfully just do not agree with that. As I've learned after reading many online reviews, specifically those at the Consumer Affairs website, Consumer Affairs has been in business since 1998 and is a leading platform for consumer reviews and news. They are a Better Business Bureau accredited business with an A+ rating. The Cahovanian Homes Reviews received, and this is fact, an overall rating of 1.4 out of 5 stars out of 305 reviews. And the website was just last updated Wednesday of last week, February 4th. So these are all current. Out of the 305 reviews, 248, that's 248, had 1-star ratings, with the most recent review being posted last month on January 19th. There were 5 1-star postings in December of 25 and 3 in November of 25. These most recent 1-star ratings were received from homeowners in Texas, Ohio, Massachusetts, Arizona, Michigan, California, Illinois, and New Jersey, and covered a wide range of problematic issues. One in particular posted on December 13th, 2025, from a Ben in Phoenix, Arizona, who states in part, quote, "Every resident has a one or 2 car garage, and there are designated parking areas. However, Cahovanian clearly failed to invest in sufficient parking for the community. Vehicles are now scattered throughout the neighborhood, parked along streets, on sidewalks, and even directly in front of garage bins, preventing trash pickup. Homeowners are forced to weed through a gauntlet of parked cars just to access their own homes. There is the potential that this same thing could happen if the proposed R6 Ivy Reserve housing development is approved. If so, it would be a nightmare for delivery and maintenance vehicles as well as for the township's snowplow vehicles. The parking issue would be exacerbated during holiday and family gatherings such as birthdays and graduations and during televised major sporting events like the Super Bowl yesterday. Where are all of the visitors going to park? As an example, we had a neighbor down the street for the Super Bowl had 20 vehicles in the street, 5 in their driveway. If you had 1, 2, or even more homes during a major sporting event or televised, and you had 20, 40, 60 vehicles in the streets, and then, God forbid, have a fire, how are the fire trucks and emergency vehicles going to get to that house if that would happen during that time frame? Again, thank you much for your time, and I hope you consider this carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda at 7760 North.
I'm good.
Good, okay. Greg Allison, 7505 Ivy.
Mike, I'm addressed, good.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Mary at 7677 North.
I'm good.
Good, okay, thank you. I got the same address, Robert? Good, okay. Kathy at 1328 Stonington.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Looks like the same address, okay.
Same address.
Yep, I just can't, I always see an R on there, so, okay. All right.
It's your turn.
Good evening. My name's Kirk Schuler. I'm at 1328 Stonington. I've been a Pembroke resident for 33 years, and I am clearly against the rezoning. I don't understand how, at one point, a board, before your existence, guys, zoned that R1 entirely. It was probably because they had a reason and I hope a future that they could see off Pembroke would be more of a wonderful family setting. When we moved here 33 years ago, we had an opportunity either to purchase in Avondale, Hills and Dales, but we selected Pembroke. Not because of the tax issues, though my mother-in-law liked this, but because there was a home feel for it. The neighborhood, at one time, we used to put candelabra or whatever they call those luminaires all through the neighborhood on Christmas. And those things have gone. So I've seen the changes that you guys are facing and making. But what I'm awfully concerned about is where this is all going to go. There's a lot of other property that is being developed north of us, which was in the sanctuary area. I don't know if that's going to come about. That's going to increase traffic, and I know that I'm not going to beat on that, only because I think everybody is aware of those kind of issues. But I'm asking you, because I'm, at this point, I'm withholding making some upgrades into my house, because I'm convinced that this is no longer going to be profitable for me, and I would think for you guys as well too. All we see is real estate taxes going up and not a lot happening that's beneficial for us. So I'm asking the board to reconsider this rezoning. Keep it R1. Why not? I think the idea of them tying into Pembroke is an excellent idea. I know that we have seen other housing projects that are on the Market Avenue try to get in with us. I don't know why they haven't, but at any rate, I think that's logical and would benefit the builder. It may attract a better grade builder, which I think has to come into question here. So based upon the quality of the builder building in here and my house value, I'm really looking to possibly leave, and I don't want to leave. So with that, I'm asking you to keep it R1. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, okay. Dr. Larry Booker, 1091 Lane.
Yeah, I'm going to defer the issue that's been brought up.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Don't need to be redundant.
All right, and I think Bonnie, and same address? Good, okay. Mary Long at 111.
I'm good too. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. And then the person that wanted to go last was Valerie at 1300 Chelmsford.
I'm lying.
That's all, yeah. You had requested it.
I did, and I did because mine was a very minor point, and it was somewhat already addressed regarding the signage, the notification signage that is required to be put up. And the fact that it was only put up, I know the address is Ivy, but obviously a huge portion of this property is also on Elmhurst. And so the notification signage was placed that you couldn't see it, that you stopped in the middle of the road to look at it. So Saturday I was out on the 18th of October walking with my son, and I called and left a message at the township asking, you know, why it was placed so that it wasn't visible. And I did get a call back the following Monday, didn't write down who it was from. And he explained that it was the road department that put it up. No good reason that it wasn't facing a proper way. And I pointed out that there were political signs on the property that were facing the right way and totally visible. And the question was, I mean, my intent was hopefully that they would relocate the notification signs. Obviously, plenty of people did hear about it. But instead of the notification signs being changed, the political signs disappeared immediately. So that was just a minor concern. And that's why I asked it last, because it was a minor thing. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anybody I didn't read that I missed by accident?
Is there anybody in the audience that signed to speak but we missed? Anyone?
Chuck, Barry Kendi,
Yeah, he said he was okay. He's over here.
Did everything was talked about? I don't need to.
I just want to make sure I missed anything.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Chuck?
Yeah, that's everyone I have.
First? Okay. So I will entertain a motion. Yeah, okay, we will do that. So, so if you do want to address, we'll give you about no more than 5 minutes to address those issues, and then we'll entertain a motion.
Can I have one moment?
Sorry?
Everybody, yes, can I have one moment here? Everybody that is against this, raise your hand so you can please.
Number one, that would be out of order. We've already pretty much been convinced by the people that spoke and the people that deferred their speaking to say, no, we're comfortable with the facts. So originally there were 28 people signed up to speak. We heard from all 28 people so that's it, okay? So.
Democratic.
it has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. Do not start with that issue.
It's a democracy.
Sir, you can abstain your comments or be removed by the chair.
Scott, I will take care of this. I'm going to ask you as a courtesy to keep your comments down because you've already accused us of something that I'm going to address in my notes that I'm going to say here. So I'm going to tell you to keep your comments down. I'll give you one more warning, and then I'm going to have you removed, which is what I don't want to do. Okay? So the ball is in your court now. Are you okay with that?
I guess.
Okay, thank you. Now, you can have 5 minutes.
Thank you, I appreciate that. There were a lot of comments, so I will try and address as many as I can quickly. The first one is Regional Planning Commission did approve the recommendation to R6 on November 4th. They approved it for 8 different reasons. You have the letter in front of you. I'm not going to read all 8. However, I would focus on number 5, which it does state that The plan further suggests the township consider rezoning areas to the PUD district, as doing so encourages future development to be sensitive to environmental features and requiring 30% of the land to be deemed as open space, while providing flexible, innovative development of the land. Additionally, in the PUD district, the township is given the opportunity to be the development review authority, ensuring the appropriate direction the township desires is achieved. So it is important to note that in the R1 classification, there is not an additional level of review by the trustees, versus in the R6, you do have that final development review, so that way you are able to make adjustments to the site plan. If there are requirements such as amenities to be in the community, a walking trail, lot sizes to be changed in certain areas, those things absolutely can be done at the site review period. The other thing that I would like to note is that in 2024, the Stark County Economic Development Board did a housing study, of which the results came in that there were 114,000 households in Stark County, but only 88,000 housing units. The result of that was they actually created a document that said the Stark County Housing Study recommendations. While there are a lot on here, number 2 was create an easier pathway to housing development in the community. And specifically, it says, create ordinances that allow for more density when creating new house projects. All townships should revise zoning and regulation restrictives for multifamily developments, including townhomes. While our site does not do that, that is one of the reasons that we feel the PUD achieves the, the word was similar housing types in the area, because we are still proposing single-family residential units. A couple other things that were mentioned, basements, we absolutely do want to have basements. That is actually soil related, but that would be our intent. And utilities, we have been told that as long as the current septic system is working and there's no health regulations, that they would not be required to tie into the utilities. Also, our R6 zoning application has been amended that it would be required to have single-family homes. This eliminates the concern with multifamily, and it has been limited to 120 houses. And again, you would have final site plan approval. The last thing that I'd like to talk about is we've heard a lot of reasons why smaller lots are bad. But I would ask you to consider the voices of the folks that are not here. So the reason that we shop at Walmart as opposed to shopping at a luxury store is because the majority of us cannot afford to shop at Nordstrom's. We shop at Walmart. And the reason is because we can bring our family there. That's what our families can afford. The household median income or average median income in Plain Township is between $74,000 and $76,000. While I would love to have a Rembrandt home, I cannot afford that on a median household income of approximately $75,000. So the reasons that you would go with any national builder are because you can build a new home within 6 months. K. Hovnanian, we build houses ahead of time, so we actually have options that you can move right into. We also have a mortgage company, which means that we can buy rates down to 3 and 4%, which allows your residents to be able to get into a brand new home much more affordable than even going to the resale market. There are many reasons that you would buy a new home from any national builder, and I would ask for you to consider those while you're making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
So I'll make a motion whereas a public hearing was held. Thank you, John. I'll make a motion whereas a public hearing was held February 9th, 2026 by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to consider amendment 592-25 of the Plain Township zoning map, the rezone of parcel 5215455 Ivy Street Northwest from R1 Single Family Residential to R6 Planned Unit Development, whereas such hearing was properly and timely held pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 519.12, whereas the Plain Township Board of Trustees has duly considered the nature of the amendment and the reasons, therefore the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission, Stark County Regional Planning Commission, and the information provided by any and all other interested persons there. Now therefore be hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adopt the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission for approval.
I'll second that motion. Now discussion.
Yeah, I'll kick it off.
Petition.
Yeah, you want to?
Does this work? Yep. Big mouth in here now. I first want to say thank you to everyone that came out for the last couple of hearings with the zoning board and commission and coming to a few of our meetings and coming tonight and speak. It does take a lot of courage to get up and talk to a room full of people, and I appreciate all of the insights, all of the views of all the residents that are concerned about this issue. I also want to say thank you to Chuck and the rest of the team at the zoning department that put all this together, from setting up the hearings to answering questions throughout this whole process. Thanks as well to our zoning commission for their time and effort that they put in. Looking at the requirements for R6, it was discussed, some of the stuff that I was going to speak about tonight, and I don't want to be redundant, but this does not meet the requirements for R6 in my view. It does not really fall in the spirit of it. There's no clubhouse, no pool, as it was directed when you look at 701-1F. The north side is not buildable. I know that for a fact. The only R6 part that they're using is for the density. This is up against a residential neighborhood. People are going to have to view this in their backyard. It's not going to be the spacious area that they have signed up to when they lived here. Anything usable in R6 is not being put in. They're only wanting to put houses on top of one another, which is going to be butted up against R1 neighborhood. Lastly, I believe in responsible growth and development in our township, but I also listen to the voices of our residents. That is all I have to say.
First of all, I also want to thank you for your courtesy in the presentation that you made. I listened to everything, things that I had written down. When you made some comments that I'll allude to, I kind of jotted some things down. But I'm going to start off by saying this because I want you to listen loud and clear what I'm going to say. I am going to vote no against this project. Don't clap, okay? But my vote is going to be no, okay? But I want you to listen hard about why I have chosen to vote no, because it's not just about a density issue or whatever. First of all, I have a fiduciary responsibility to 36,000 residents in Plain Township. So, am I listening to you? Yes. Am I listening to other residents that say we need to have growth, things need to be going on in this area? So the answer is yes. I listen to everybody. They also want to see our township grow and prosper. And I know there were some comments about whether the township is going to stay the township. I can promise you it's not going to. And I'll get to that in a minute. I owe an explanation to regional planning, our zoning commission, developers, other open landowners, and realtors, because most of you aren't aware, but this particular hearing is being watched by everybody in this county, okay? With all those shared partners that I just talked about. And they're going to want to understand what was our rationale, what was our logic. Because we've heard all the things about the density. Any one of these hearings, I do research. So, people that made comments about we didn't do certain things, every one of us have done research. So all all these emails that we have received citing all these things. I went online, I looked at them, and I'll get to that in a minute. Any type of zoning change request, we get a lot of information prior to that. You may not have seen that, but we get it. So everything that comes from regional planning, we watch all the videos that go on, and some people say, why wasn't the board here? The board is not there because we don't want to create a presence of intimidation one way or another. We're supposed to be non-biased, listening to the testimony of people. And that's just what we did, and we followed that process. I do site visits, so I can promise you, I went up and down every one of your streets more than once. I went from all directions. I know there's 3 streets that go east off of Elmhurst. I know the speed limit on Elmhurst. I know the speed limit changes on Elmhurst that we're going to look at, obviously, okay? Because these are all good things that are brought to our attention that we're going to look at. All those drive-bys I did. And then, of course, I got in and I reviewed our zoning resolution, and I looked at all that, and I talked to our zoning director. So, and we do all of that. So it's not just a matter of we came here and wasn't sure what was going on. I also looked at other township developments, and I can tell you that I've talked to my counterparts in both of these places regarding these types of issues and this particular developer. They have one going on right now in Jackson Township and one going on in Nimishillen Township. And I've talked to my counterparts there, and because I felt in that non-biased position, I need to research both sides, because I'm hearing and getting all these things from people that are emails that say, you know, oh, they've been cited for so many things. Personally, I couldn't find one that they were cited for in Ohio or in Stark County. And I got to tell you, I look to Stark County for my information. This is where I live. I am familiar with the people that have to follow up on all these things, whether it's the building department or soil and water or anybody else who is responsible to make sure that whatever it is that they are doing, they are following right, and everything that we are doing, we are following right. Because both they and we have people we have to answer to as well. And we take all of that into consideration. What we are looking at simply here is a zone change. And a zone change that is going to go from, or that in my vote, a zone change is being asked to go from an R1 to a PUD R6. Now, I'll get to that in a minute, because I think that is significant. But I will tell you this. What I'm going to talk about now is there seems to be a misunderstanding in some people as to what we, the board, can decide. We can't decide to keep that a cornfield, okay? That's a property owner's right. So what we are discussing here in all this, and what we are looking at, is the fact of what is going to happen if it remains an R1 compared to the argument of what is going to happen if it goes to a PUD R6. So somebody brought up schools, not an issue, because we've already done our research with Plain Local Schools. We've attended both of those meetings that they had publicly regarding their new potential build-out for their buildings. And here's what they said. Public meeting, they said, that's not going to affect us in any way. We are under the amount of enrollment that we actually need, so that, and we didn't even ask that. That particular comment was volunteer. Now, were we listening close? Sure, because we had an absolute direct, intimate relationship with that understanding. So, noise. If somebody brought up noise, you all do understand, and a lot of you do, and I appreciate the fact that you understand. It's R1. If the knucklehead development company bought that ground today and developed it as an R1, there are no restrictions outside of subdivision regulations or zoning that would require them to do anything but make a decision how they want to develop that. None. Because it's already zoned now. Okay? So, if that's developed tomorrow, there's still going to be noise. And again, you already know how I'm going to vote. I'm not making an argument for either side. What I'm trying to let you know is, if tomorrow that goes to R1, and somebody decides to do that, we won't be meeting like this. You won't have a say, and neither do we. Okay? So I'm just being honest, and I just want you to understand, it's not going to always remain a cornfield. Drainage will all be guided by soil and water. They have all these engineers that do that. So regardless of what is set up, if it's wetlands or anything like that, all that's going to be regulated by those regulators. And oh, by the way, I can tell you, those regulators, when we were having some construction going on our site, they were there every day, making sure that those regulations were being done. So that contractor had to deal with those people, okay? And I'm just letting you know, we have some very good people in soil and water in the building department that are inspecting and making sure that all the regulations and all the requirements are being followed. I personally like deer and rabbits too, and I understand there's a certain amount of things that are going to happen that are going to push them out. But again, tomorrow, that building could go on, and that's going to go away. I understand that. We had this very issue at Edgewood, where people lived in these neighborhoods and had streets that were locked off right there. And what I found kind of, I just couldn't quite understand how somebody could buy a house there with a street that's blocked off onto open land and not thinking that that street is going to go somewhere with future construction going on. That's not our fault. That's the fault of the person that bought that property. So it just frustrates me sometimes when it's important for people who are buying property that they understand what they are getting. So traffic is the same thing. If it's R1, there's going to be traffic. There's no guarantee who the builder or developer will be if it's R1. There's no guarantees. So you won't have a say in who can be the developer or where those houses are going to go on the lots. And I will promise you this. What you said about that layout, well, all you have to do is drive, and don't take my word for it, drive up to Bottler, where that has an R1A zoning, and you're going to see a whole bunch of driveways that come off of Bottler. And they do that because they're getting the best utilization out of the space. And we can't control it, nor can the neighbors control it. Now, I'm only telling you this because that is always a possibility. So I don't want you to be surprised by something, thinking that because however we vote tonight, that the potential for development on that land goes away, because it doesn't. Okay? So there were some other issues about homeowners associations, and the homeowners, regardless of which direction it goes, and thank you, Mrs. Shirley, for that, a little bit of understanding on homeowners associations. They, in fact, control that land, or in this case, the homeowners association would dictate all these other things in a PUD R6. So when we're talking about open space, when we're talking about green space, somebody made a comment about, well, I can't walk here, I got to go through yards. That's not your open space. That open space belongs to the homeowners association. And in reality, if they did have a swimming pool or they did have a clubhouse, or they did have a playground, that's for the use of their homeowners association residents, not the public, okay? So I wasn't sure if people truly understood that if that were to go to a PDU R6, that those amenities are strictly for the people within that group. So obviously they are correct. If this goes to an R6, a PUD R6, our board does have certain things that we can do. So it's not just a matter of an open checkbook and all these things about water and sewer and all of those. All that would be worked out from a standpoint of who's going to pay for it. Township's not going to pay for it. You as residents aren't going to pay for it because we wouldn't allow that. Okay? So we talked about water and sewer. Oil wells, the oil wells are still going to exist. You may not know it, but if you drive around, you're going to see oil wells in allotments and property. All you got to do, just go down Schneider and look at the area off of Schneider and Market. There's oil wells within those allotments, and they're common throughout the township. So, I just jotted that down. One of the concerns, I mean, we can't do anything about it, but I think you have to think about this futuristically. There is a lot of open space north of Mount Pleasant in Lake Township. And there's a good possibility you may see development start to go there. So all these issues that you talked about, very, very valid issues, a concern for us. Obviously, we're paying attention to those and watching those. Okay? So there are a lot of places, trust me, this board is going to have your back, but there's only so much that we can do for them. I'm going to get back to landowners' rights, okay? Because one thing that zoning does allow is you and Mr. Cobb, who is the owner of that property, has the right to utilize his property however they want, okay? So that's not going to change. Mrs. Shirley, we are going to have a discussion about asphalt curbs, okay? Not here, okay? But please, just, we'll connect with that. Yeah, well, I think I've already talked about that. So, like I said, we, on an R1, or we don't pick the builders. Okay, like I say, if the Knucklehead Building Company came in and bought that property, they can do however they want, as long as it meets subdivision regulations, which we don't do, and as long as it meets our zoning resolution. Real estate tax, somebody asked me about real estate tax. What does our real estate tax do? Please come to a meeting. I'll tell you, we have more cars in Plain Township at any one given time than the Stark County Sheriff has in the entire county. Let me say that again. Your tax dollars pay and help having more sheriff cars within Plain Township at any one given time than there are sheriff cars in the entire rest of the county. You have 50 highly trained firefighter paramedics that have the ability to go 6 deep in calls. 6 calls can come in, and if we have the right amount of people on duty for that day, they're going to handle 6 calls going on at the same time. There is nobody that can hardly around us that can do that. Okay? That's what you're getting for your tax dollars. Your park dollars are allowing us over and above any of those school activities. So I hear people say about, okay, I've lived in Plain Township for this long. We have children. We have grandchildren. Well, if you want those grandchildren to continue to be able to do soccer and softball and baseball and activities within the park and go to our splash pad and go to those places where we have playgrounds and all those other things that we do at the parks, that's what that levy pays for. And I can't even begin to remember the amount of people that are on those fields at any one given time. We don't have 5 minutes of time in between scheduling of all the activities that go there. That's what your real estate, that's what your property tax dollars go for. I did have some, I think I did hear this right, that maybe there was some deal going on underneath the table, and I'm going to assume that that was all done out of frustration. And I'm going to assume that this board wasn't being accused of doing anything underneath the table. So I'm just going to write that off as a passionate frustration. Here's why I'm voting no, okay? Because again, there's all kinds of people that are watching this. We have a repository reporter that's burning up the ink in his pen right now, okay? Here's why I'm voting no. We only have one PUD in our township, and it was what, in my opinion, is a very successful PUD. It follows the spirit and the intent of what the board originally set up a PUD to be, okay? It is a community within a community. And with all due respect, this particular presentation for me is not a community within a community. It is utilizing the language that's within the PUD R6 to put high dense properties in a general area, okay? Having said that, I think we have a lot of places in Plain Township that are perfect for PUDs. I think we have a lot of places in Plain Township that are perfect for high density. I don't think at the Ivy and Elmhurst property that's a fit for the intent and the spirit and the lower density that should be for that area. I'm not finished. Thank you very much, but I'm not finished. Okay, because again, I have to make sure that my vote means something, and I just want to make sure that there's an understanding. So there is, and then obviously we've already heard those things that that you would normally see in a PUD, that community within a community. Is it a clubhouse, is it a playground, is it a swimming pool? But again, if it were, that would be built into that community, and the maintenance costs and the upkeep, that would all go back to the homeowners associations. And here's what I'm going to say about density in homeowners associations. I don't pick and choose who buys those houses. If somebody chooses to buy that house on that property with that little tiny lot, that their homeowners association fees are sky high, that's up to them to decide. But here's what I'll also tell you. Drive around at any place that there's any type of development going on. There's not, the only vacant house that's there is the one that's still under construction, because they're buying them as fast as they're being constructed. So there are people that want higher density. There are people that want smaller yards. There are people that want smaller houses. It's, in my opinion, it just doesn't fit at that location. The cul-de-sacs are too small. Okay, now that's an issue regardless. So here's what we know about cul-de-sacs. They are the biggest pain for snowplow drivers because, and for you, and here's why. You're going to be last in the snowplow, okay? You are the least prioritized in the priority of how that goes. Okay, so you're going to be last. Some people like living there. But small cul-de-sacs, and these guys with these trucks, God love them, I don't know how they do it. But to be able to move heavy snow and keep it moving and push it back far enough, first of all, they have to be able to maneuver. But secondly, they have to have a certain amount of speed to be able to get it there. So they got to back up, go forward. And so, yes, the county's minimum requirement on cul-de-sacs is 60 feet. Am I right on that, Chuck?
50. Yeah, 60.
60 feet?
50.
That's the county's.
50.
Okay?
The county is 50.
How much?
The county is 50.
Okay. Either way, we're looking at 75. Now, I know the county's going to say, oh, you know, you got to give them a break. Yeah, but here's the way I look at it. Cul-de-sacs aren't going away. They're going to continue to be, as these developments go, they're going to be more and more and more and more and more. So the longer we have tied up working on these cul-de-sacs, the worse it's going to be for these guys. You've heard about the study. We are very familiar with the study. Stark Development Board has done a study. We are buying into that study. But it doesn't cost us anything. When I say that, we are looking at every one of the recommendations with that study. And some of you referred a little bit of that tonight. And that is, we need to go back to our zoning resolution and create other types of zoning to fit better with more density. Okay? Historically, 20 years ago, it was nobody wants density. Today, everybody wants density. So we're buying into that study, and we're going to follow it. I'll also tell you that there is a statewide movement right now to take local zoning away from townships and have a state zoning that all of this would be decided at the state level, not at the local level. That is the absolute worst freaking idea that I've ever heard of. So if you want to talk about people at the state deciding what they're going to do locally, now for us, correct me if I'm wrong, law director, but right now the people that are doing it are somewhat staying away from us because we are a limited home rule township. Okay, so the threats that I received by email about, you know, I've lived here 57 years, I vote for you, and I can appreciate that, I understand all of that, but I wasn't intimidated by that. You know, I understood your frustration, I know you're passionate about it, and I know you want to protect your property as well, so I'm okay with that, but on the other side, I'm voting no, not because I was intimidated by anybody, regardless of what I received. I also want to thank our zoning office. This has been huge, and they have done an absolute amazing job to make sure they have talked to people, to make sure they've answered any questions that they might have. Chuck, I just want to thank you and Emily, but I do also want to say this, and I don't think it was anybody in this room, because I've seen a sense of group respect tonight, and I appreciate that. But I do want to publicly say that for those people that bullied our administrative assistant in zoning, that swore at her, that intimidated her, and that yelled and screamed at her, and maybe even hung up on her, shame on you, because she did not deserve that. And I'm pretty sure it was nobody in this room. That's all I have.
Well, I certainly, for the sake of consolidating statements, John.
Oh, see, I thank you.
Thank you, guys. So I'm going to say, out of the sake of time, I echo a lot of the same sentiments as John. I would tell you, I was part of the board that did approve the PUD, in the Fountains of Edgewood because of the spirit of it and what it encompassed. And like John said, there's certainly a need and a demand for that type of housing within spots within the township. As far as Mr. Koth and the relationships through the Building Industry Association stuff and talking across the county and out of the county, he has a very, very good reputation, a man of strong character and integrity. So to see his name, drug group out of, I'm going to check it up to the passion, as John said. I'd encourage you to step back and understand who a person really is. You're wanting to talk an issue, but you're casting that issue on the people. At the township level, I've taken seriously in my tenure of service the preservation of green space. The fact is this plan as proposed certainly offers up more than was required. And I will say within the language, one of the things I felt ironic between emails and calls that I got, well, where's the clubhouse? Where's the trail? Listen, green space does not mean you are guaranteed to have access to it. And in fact, the language in here says required open space may. It doesn't say must, it says may include structures and facilities of clubhouse. As I look at this, on the green space preservation, this board and prior board have put significant effort in. We've preserved 67 acres in the township through $1.4 million in grant funding. Not a single penny came out of any of your pockets. Not a penny at all. When we talk about green space preservation, I don't just sit up here and talk. I've proven it. I've went out and I've led those efforts, to which many of you, I'm sure, either haven't paid attention or were aware of. Specific to this property and the amount of ingress and egress, as John has alluded to, in an R1 and optimizing, it can absolutely happen. And being the board president of the Stark County Access Management Committee, and going back and talking with the county engineer, it's not a threat. It's just the honest point that they could put 21 roads or 21 driveways on those two roads. Now, I'm going to tell you, I drive a half-ton four-wheel drive pickup truck, and I went down Ivy, and I guarantee if John and I were going opposite directions, we're coming to crawl along there. So I'm going to tell you that certainly the points on roads, width, and so forth is a concern. When you go, well, how would you deal with widening? Well, without putting the cart before the horse, that gets into, right-of-way acquisition and so forth. So there are means to do it, and there are means to do it that would not, again, be an individual taxpayer responsibility. Specific to all of the utilities, I think that's been made clear, that's brought in at the developer's cost. So whether that's a residential developer or a commercial developer, it's pulled in. So that's not money out of your pocket. Furthermore, you're not forced to sign up for water or sewer. However, I did note, through the Stark County Health Department, and this is something this board has heard over a number of years and even prior. The number of Stark County, I think, leads the state in the number of septic systems. That's not something to brag about, because the amount of them that are failing and the amount of them across, not just Plain Township, across Stark County and the state that are failing, when you start looking at the replacement cost of those, ranging anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 on average, a development like this where you pull in water and sewer into that area actually provides long-term a strategic opportunity for other properties to tie into that versus having to go another private system. The reality is your lot sizes, many of them are the way they are because, as it was noted, because it was the minimum lot required in order to accommodate both a well and a septic, whereas with public sanitary and water, they can do that on a smaller basis. Specific to the R6 and, you know, the constant comments, whether it been email, threatening calls, or tonight, this property, let's say if it was approved, and the developer sells it, the plan that's approved, it's approved as an R6 with that plan. So if somebody was to come forward, buy that property, they can't just go and put it up in apartment buildings, duplexes, triplexes, and so forth. That plan would absolutely have to come back before the Plain Township Board of Trustees, to which there would be public hearings. So I want to dispel that misnomer, misunderstanding. I can tell you, I walked that entire property, from muck boots walking up the creek that walks through that property, because actually one of the residents, and I don't know if he's here tonight, but Mike McNamara had reached out to me because he lives up off of Elm Creek Circle, and he called me right after it rained. And I was up there. He walked me around, explained to me why he had bought that property. And though it wasn't quite at the flood stage of some of the initial pictures, the water was still significantly high. So when we take a look at these properties and plans, retention and detention are critical. So when I'm looking at this development plan, I'm sitting here going, okay, the green space area is absolutely critical, because if you have rising water, what's to say the developer can't just go in and start cleaning up this creek and redirecting it, because again, soil, water, EPA, there's a number of other things there. That green space is going to be critical, whereas with strictly the R1, yes, everybody can maintain up to their area, but given to what the big folks from Hovnanian had noted, you know, some of those lots would absolutely start getting into that space. Let's see. Apologize, I wrote quite a few notes. Is John in here? So
writing as you were talking.
there was a comment, and I apologize for jumping around, but to your point that you don't feel questions have been answered, and typically, I mean, this is not for debate, but to the comments made on Canton City Water's impact. Trust me, we were just down in Columbus this past week for the Ohio Township Association conference. This is very much a concern, and there are efforts going on and talking with our legislators, partnering with our other townships around. These threats of, say, you're an existing homeowner and you're looking to sell your house. Oh, now all of a sudden you could potentially have to annex into the city. The annexation is contingent upon the property being contiguous. You know, the mayor down in Canton has certainly made some misleading statements as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this, because saying the city of Canton has subsidized this infrastructure out of the city into these other areas, that's not true. The developers either pay for it, residents pay to connect to it, and so forth. So we're going to work, and we're going to fight. I'm going to say it, it's probably not proper, but we're going to fight like hell to fight this, because for a community leader who has come out saying, who's actually a former, and this isn't a target on unions because we have a good working relationship with our unions, but if he would have had his employees' union contracts violated, he would agree to that. But now, as you're seeing in the media, he wants to come back and target the townships and violate prior agreements that prior administrations put in place for durations. I can tell you, all day, every day, every one of us is going to fight like hell to uphold the letter of the law and the intention. We've worked too hard to collaborate regionally and locally on these things. Again, if you're looking for the direction of the township, our comprehensive community master plan is online. That is not something this board of trustees just created in a vacuum. It's a 10-year outlook, and it's actually based upon work we do with regional planning, as well as there was a significant, vast amount of public hearings, which the public was afforded the opportunity to come out and provide input. So that's how that plan was formulated, and I can tell you there was quite a bit from that aspect. Yeah, plus surveys, as John was noting. As far as the school strain, zero. Outside of what John said with, Brent May during some of the hearings, as well, working with the folks at the county, pulled a 15-year historical look at Plain Township student population. Though it's been relatively stable, it has been a slight decline. That number looked at information for public schools, charter schools, and Catholic schools. So again, to the point that John made, Brooke made, there's a lot of legwork in here. So never assume that we're not listening or we haven't done the homework. There's quite a bit of resources we have here. So no capacity strains on the school. I will tell you on the property, however this ends up getting developed, there's going to be some benefit, because I know as I walked it, there's a significant amount of just old bricks that have been dumped. There's tires specific to the wells. There's no pump units on that property. The two spots that are on there they're both capped. So I think one of the things that would certainly need to be clarified is how something like that is protected. But even the old tank battery that's back there, it's not connected. But as I walked around on the ground, there's old cable wires that come up. So whatever development's going to happen here at some point is going to improve this. Ultimately, the local infrastructure outside of what the developer pulls in roads, water, and so forth, not concerned there. Probably the overarching concern is Ivy itself, and then as well as some additional on the density and to the spirit of conforming with the PUD, as John indicated. So that said, I have no further comments unless either of you do. Otherwise, it's a roll.
He's our spokesman for tonight, and he did every dot he said, and,
Excuse me.
yes.
Do I have the option to table in order to adjust for your comments?
No.
Not an option?
No. Our law director says no.
Says no. All right, thank you.
Thank you, John. Anything else? Roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
No.
Mr. Sabo?
No.
Mr. Hawes?
No.